My entitled scumbag parents have moved in with me and my siblings into a house that we were renting. But even though they said they would pay rent and contribute to the household, they have, ever since they moved in, refused to do anything to contribute to the house. And right now, I feel like I'm at my breaking point, as I want them evicted from my house. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my parents have been irresponsible my entire life. I've been homeless and in many uncomfortable housing situations, including living with extended family, living in homeless shelters and cars, or just straight up squatting in a house on and off throughout my entire childhood. In fact, during my senior year of high school, I lived in a motel. I turned 18 in late 2021 during the pandemic, and this is while my parents and two of my siblings lived in the motel. I was in my first semester of college and had to return to the motel due to financial struggle. During that time, my dad had told us that the weekly rent owed to the motel was paid through a COVID rental assistance program. However, they would spend their money on gambling, illegal substances, and alcohol, and they would never buy food, causing us to lose a lot of weight. Two of us were in college, and they would take the relief money that we received and spend it as well. Then they would turn around and criticize us for not having jobs, even though my mom didn't have a job either, and one of my siblings had to quit theirs because my parents would take their money while they were sleeping, and it got to a point where they couldn't afford transportation to the job. On top of that, I had no birth certificate or social security card because they lost it when I was like 5 years old, and they just never replaced it, so I couldn't get a job until I got them. It took so many months, but my siblings and I figured out how to receive my documents, and we got jobs to save up and move away from our parents because their irresponsible ways were keeping us trapped in the motel with them. Now, I've got to be honest, it was really hard to save and keep money away from our parents. At first, my dad would tell me how he made more money than me, and that my money from my near minimum wage job meant nothing. He would let me know constantly that on a bad week, he made twice as much as me. But then he and my mom would turn around and ask me for money, and they would get mad when we would ask them why, or if we even said no to them. It was hard with them taking our money, but after 5 months of working, we had enough money to start looking for a place. We decided not to rush, since we also wanted money to save for a car. We told our parents that we were looking for a place, and they said that they would also look for themselves. While still touring houses, we were given an eviction notice, and it turned out my dad had been lying about paying rent. We had no clue because he did say the COVID program was over and would ask us for the money to cover it. So my siblings and I decided to just move into any place that we could. We got accepted for a 3-bedroom house for a good price in today's economy, and we had our move-in day set just before the eviction date. Well, just before we moved in, my dad asked if he and my mom could move in with us for just a year and said that he would even pay half the rent and that we could split the other half 3 ways. Now, we didn't think he'd actually do that, but we agreed because we felt bad and we didn't want them to be homeless, and we figured that we could use their car just a little bit more. I ended up getting a new car the same week that we moved in, and then my parents' car needed some work, so we ended up splitting the rent 4 ways, between me, my 2 siblings, and my dad. Then he crashed his car and never got it fixed because he had no insurance. After that, it continued to get worse. My mom would take my car, lie about where she was going, and not bring it back in time for us to go to work. My dad then yells at me for asking for the money in weekly increments, but never has it all at the end or the beginning of the month. They refuse to put money in the grocery pile, but always eat all the food in the house. They will take things from my room without asking. They never put gas in my car after using it. They argue constantly, and I was even taking classes at a local community college, but I had to stop because I had to work more hours just so I could cover for all the things that they would do and for the stuff they wouldn't pay for. And trust me, this is just a small list of all the things they do that really affect me. My siblings and I want to stay in this house because the rent is so affordable and its location is extremely convenient for its distance from shopping, recreation, and my job. I can work 25 hours a week and go to school while living comfortably. How do I get them to move out? Or do I just accept that my siblings and I will have to move and leave them homeless? What should I do? There is no reason why you should have to live with these people, especially with the way they're acting. They're literally just mooching off of you and your siblings, and that is absolutely not fair. So I don't know about you, but I would definitely start the process of like evicting them if I really wanted them out of that house. It doesn't seem like they contribute a single thing of value to that house, and in my opinion, that is not fair for you and your siblings in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejirk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my family move in simply because my 16-year-old son doesn't want them to. Here's what happened. About 5 years ago, my husband cheated on me and then abandoned our family. And this was an incredibly difficult time. I was left alone to raise our son, who was just 11 years old at the time. None of my family members offered any help or support, and we were essentially on our own. The only person who helped us was my father, who was a great support system both emotionally and financially. When my father passed away 2 years ago, he left me with a significant inheritance. This money allowed me to buy a house and provide a stable, comfortable life for my son and myself. Since my husband left, my son and I have become very close. We've been through a lot together, and our bond is incredibly strong. I mean, I would do anything for him. Recently, some of my extended family members have fallen on hard times and asked if they could move in with us. Now, given our history, I was initially very hesitant. I discussed it with my son, and he was very much against the idea. He remembers how nobody was there for us when we needed them the most, and feels strongly that they shouldn't benefit from our home now. Understanding his feelings and valuing his comfort, I decided to tell my family that they couldn't move in with us. And now they're upset and accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. They say that I owe them support because we're family. I don't think that I'm the jerk, and honestly, I don't care what they think as long as my baby is happy, but I still want to hear other people's opinions. So am I the jerk for refusing to let my family move in simply because my son doesn't want them to? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it really sounds like your family left you guys high and dry. Like, how can they possibly expect that you would extend the same favor to them that they literally denied you and your son? I think your son has it right. I think his intuition is correct. And in my opinion, this is them getting a taste of their own medicine. Am I the jerk for disinviting a friend from an event after she gave away my ticket to see Taylor Swift over to her sister? Because right now I am heartbroken, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So back when Eras Tour tickets were released, my friend, who we will call Sadie, said that she would grab us tickets and I would pay her back. We made concrete plans and I was so excited. I've been a fan of Taylor Swift for years, but I've never seen her live. I had to sell my stadium tour tickets back in the 2010s because my mom was passing away and I needed the money to help pay for medical bills. This past weekend, I was having a little get-together for a bunch of friends, and Sadie was of course invited. At some point, she pulled me aside and told me that she had news. She said that she was leaving in September, and when she said that, I was heartbroken. We've been friends for years, and I love spending time with her. I get all teary-eyed and I hug her a bunch, and said that we needed to get all of our thrifting trips in over the summer and hang out as much as we could. Then she broke the news that as a way to bond with her sister before she left, she was going to be taking her to see Taylor Swift instead. And when she said that, I didn't know how to react. She stood in front of me and Venmo'd my payment back. She said to me, "I just knew you would understand." I said that this was a sneaky move and honestly really a crappy thing for her to do, and that I don't understand how or why she would do that to me. She got defensive and said that they were under her name and that she didn't owe me anything. And I was like, yes, they are your tickets, and legally you can do whatever you want, but this is still a really awful and sneaky thing to do to your friend, knowing that there is no way I will be able to get my own tickets at this point. She just shrugged and said, "Sorry, but I figured you would understand." I then asked her to leave, and I told her to please not come back for the 4th of July party next week. I said I needed to process this, and that I'm really disappointed with her and how she's treated me. This is a girl who I consoled through breakups, as well as job losses and pet losses. So I was so heartbroken. Well, she looked shocked and asked if I was serious, and eventually she ended up stomping off and leaving. She then texted me later to tell me that she's around if I want to apologize for making her feel bad, all because she wanted to take her sister on a bonding trip, as she put it. I'm honestly heartbroken that I'm going to be watching my show on a grainy live stream instead of being there in the stadium with everybody. I was looking forward to this so much. I checked the resale sites and I had a sad little cry about all of it, and I'm now wondering if I'm completely wrong to have just uninvited her. Did I go too far? If it was in, say, a month or two, I don't think I would have, but honestly, I just need time. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your friend's a massive jerk for going back on your deal and for basically ruining your plans. Like, seriously, you had your heart set on this concert. You've wanted to go to this for several years, and now, all because your friend's being selfish, she's gonna turn around and be like, "Sorry, I'm giving your ticket to somebody else." Like, that is such a crappy thing to do, and I think you had every right to say, "No, you cannot show up to my party." So no, you're not the jerk for disinviting her, because your friend did the exact same thing to you for your Taylor Swift concert. And in my opinion, that is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my parents that they need to learn to live without without me, since I will be moving out when I turn 18, and I will no longer be available to take care of my other younger siblings. Here's what happened. So my parents have a lot of kids. They always wanted a big family and were not prepared for how hard that would be. I'm a 17-year-old male and I'm the oldest of 10 kids, and my parents have relied on me for so long that I don't remember a time where I wasn't treated like a third adult in the house. My siblings range from 15 all the way down to 4 years old. My parents are still technically able to have more kids too, because neither are 40 years old yet, and it honestly still scares me, I won't lie. We already struggle so much with 10 of us, and I know it would be worse if they added more, especially when I'm so close to moving out. In our house, we have a boys' room, a girls' room, and our parents' room. We basically all sleep in these tiny, stupid bunk beds in order to fit everybody in. Nobody gets brand new clothing, as it's all from thrift stores for me and the oldest of my sisters, and our younger brothers and sisters just get hand-me-downs. It was expected that I would step up by the time I was 5 years old. I had to make mine and my siblings' beds, had to tidy up after younger siblings, had to stop my younger siblings from climbing onto things, and I was expected to clean the floors. Over time, more chores were added to my list, helping to cook, babysitting, even when I was too young to really be doing that, as well as helping with homework, holding siblings' hands when we went grocery shopping. Also, they wouldn't run off, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning both boys' and girls' bedrooms, tidying up if we had any kind of guests coming over, and the list goes on and on. My siblings weren't really given any chores, and I was basically doing just as much as my parents around the house. Now, when it comes to my siblings, they relied on me for way too much, from driving them places to picking them up from places, to me also giving them permission for stuff. They expect me to buy them stuff, and they come to me more than our parents, and sometimes come to me after our parents if they don't like what our parents said. They get upset whenever I try to get them to help out, and our parents won't back me up, so they have never done any kind of chore or helped out at all in the slightest. They get so mad when I ask, and they say that I'm not mom or dad, and then they also won't go to mom or dad for this kind of stuff most of the time. My parents are starting to freak out a bit because I will be 18 years old in October, and they know that I plan on moving out. I also work part-time, and that gets relied on to help financially, and between that and all that I do around the house, it finally dawned on my parents that I won't be around in a few more months. They started word vomiting all of this on me, and I told them that they need to learn to live without me because it's not my job to be the third adult in the house anymore. They told me I'll still be part of the family and that I can't just abandon them. But I said I will not support the household after I turn 18 because it won't be my job. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk because it sounds like your parents clearly just want you to be a third parent in this house. I bet if it was up to them, they would probably be like, no, don't ever move out of the house. Stay in the house and keep helping us take care of all these kids that we had. And that, in my opinion, is just not fair for you. You have every right to live your life and not be some kind of like parent to your siblings. I think when you do decide to move out, it would be really important to have copies of all your papers, namely stuff like your social security card, your passport, your birth certificate, all the stuff that you can possibly have so that you can move forward and not have to go back. That way they can never interfere with your life and you can basically have everything in check before you go. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with this, but hopefully things get better in the future because you absolutely deserve to have freedom from taking care of your siblings. An entitled coworker commits a felony just so she can try and get me and my coworkers in trouble, as she claimed that we were being lazy on the job and that now she had proof to try and get us fired. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I work in a warehouse for one of the major US packaging delivery companies. So something like Amazon or FedEx, something along those lines. I load a straight truck, but I also handle packages that mistakenly end up in the wrong parts of the building and need to be carted to the right one. I do this for 3 separate areas, which can keep me pretty busy. Monday morning for us was a nightmare. We were incredibly short-staffed and we were so busy. So on top of handling my very packed truck, I was also assisting another work area that was way behind, assisting my manager in loading a semi-trailer, and checking on 3 other coworkers who had multiple straight trucks to load by themselves. My manager asked me to do all of this since everyone else was also extremely busy. This meant my original truck would often get neglected and the packages would often pile up until I could get back to loading them. Well, this is where my entitled coworker enters the field. She's a coworker who has come back from about a month off. She's responsible for sorting packages off of one of the main conveyor belts and sending them to my work area as well as a couple of others. So when I'm not there to load my truck, it can get pretty backed up, and that stresses this coworker right out. Another thing about this coworker coworker is that she's been kicked out of every other part of the building for being too slow and for consistently complaining. If you ask her to lift a heavy box, she cries that she can't do it. If it's getting busy and packages are piling up, she cries that she can't handle all the work. If another coworker snaps at her, as it is a really stressful job so tempers can run high, and simply asks that she do her job, she cries that the other person started the fight. Her and I have had problems before, but I just try to ignore her. I don't come to work to start drama or fights. I come to work, I sweat my butt off, and then I get paid. So on Monday, as I'm running ragged doing the jobs of 5 people, and my work area was getting backed up frequently, I walk over to hand some rediverted packages over to a different coworker who was also backed up and running ragged. I then look up and I see just in time that this entitled coworker, with her phone up, was taking pictures of me, my work area, and my coworker's work area so she could send them to our manager to complain about how lazy we were being. Now, for those of you that don't know, taking pictures of personal packages and addresses is highly illegal. It counts as a form of mail fraud, which is a felony offense. If the United States Postal Inspection Services found out, our warehouse could have been raided and she could have been thrown in jail. So not only is it rude, it's extremely and explicitly forbidden in the workplace. So as soon as I saw her do that, I just started fuming. Thankfully, I happened to spot the upper manager across the way, so I stopped him and I told him what happened, and he had a stern talking to with her. I didn't hear most of the conversation, but I did hear her crying as she was trying to pin all the blame on another coworker for being overloaded with packages. I don't think she got in serious trouble this time, but I doubt that she learned her lesson. And if she does it again, I won't hesitate to go higher up, because at this point, I seriously hope that this idiot gets fired. Yeah, this coworker sounds like a complete idiot. Like, for starters, there's no way that she didn't know that you can't take pictures of other people's packages. Like, she had to have had some kind of training before she started there, right? So for her to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take pictures of this just to get you in trouble. You're being so lazy. Which is hilarious to be coming from her, as she's like the biggest crybaby on planet Earth. From the sounds of it, she barely does her job, and she freaks out anytime anyone tells her what to do. So if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would have done the exact same thing, because her behavior was completely unacceptable. An entitled Karen makes a scene at my library as she openly criticizes a group of young boys who are clearly disabled. And I'm honestly still gobsmacked by the way she acted, and I seriously hope she never comes back into my library ever again. Here's what happened. So I work at a busy public library. We have a large open floor for most of our collection where people are welcome to talk. We have a quiet reading room with awesome furniture and free Wi-Fi for anyone who wants a traditional quiet library experience. There's no talking and no cell phone use in this area, but patrons can talk in all other areas of the building. Well, this entitled Karen comes in with an ancient Kindle Fire and can't figure out why it doesn't work, stating that it's just so slow. Well, I realize that she has 45 programs running at once and 253 tabs open in her browser. I show her how to close a program when she's done and how to close out tabs in her browser. While I'm working on her device, a mom walks in with 2 profoundly autistic teenage boys. These boys are very sweet and they come to the library frequently. They both have loud verbal stims where they will make noise and even hum. Now, the mom is very mindful of this and gets them in and out of the library pretty quickly, even though we have told her that we are not a silent space and the boys are welcome anytime. Now, it's important to note that these boys are visibly disabled, so when they come in, this entitled Karen begins glaring at them every time they vocalize. Seeing her getting angry at these young men for something that they cannot help, I hurry up and I finish with her and get her ready to leave the library. As she stands up, she turns towards the mom in a proud voice and loudly states, "I thought libraries were supposed to be quiet. Those kids need to be controlled better." And she then actually smiles at me, thinking that I'm going to agree with her. Well, I match her volume and I say to her, "Oh, no, not at all. We are not a quiet space in any way. Most libraries aren't. If you need a quiet spot, please go to the quiet reading room." This entitled Karen lady let out an awful groan, and my next customer in line said something that honestly was so funny. They said to her, "For someone who can't even close a tab on a browser, you're being pretty judgmental, lady." And when they said that, this entitled Karen stomped off. And as a thank you for saying what we were all thinking, I gave this person a $5 coupon in printing for free, just as a thank you for putting this Karen in her place. Because trust me, that lady absolutely deserved it. Wow, how on earth can you be so obtuse that you don't see exactly what's going on? Like, those kids are very clearly disabled apparently, so it should be obvious to anybody walking by that the way they're acting is not because they're being like out of control children. Like, that is so disrespectful and just disgusting for that Karen to say. She has no right to sit there and be like, oh wow, you need to be a better parent. But I find it hilarious that the customer spoke up that was behind her and pretty much brought her back down to reality because this Karen was being a complete moron. And in my opinion, if you're gonna play stupid games like this, you better be ready for stupid prizes by somebody putting you in your place. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.